Hi again, 4-5. Sorry that the video didn't upload properly. So we just got to the part where Rosie was taking coffee upstairs to his lordship. So here we go. As soon as Rosie had left the kitchen and gone upstairs with her tray, Jim slid off the stool and ran to his mother. She sipped at her coffee, holding the cup with both hands. "We ain't going to the workhouse, Ma?" Emily asked her. The children had heard terrifying stories about workhouses. Old people spoke of them with fear and hate, as if it were the worse than hell on earth. They'd heard that people were sent there who sometimes had to stay there for the rest of their lives. People died there. Some people slept out in the streets and in the fields rather than go to the workhouse. The two girls sat in silent dread, each side of their mother. "Help Rosie out with the bread, Emily," Mrs. Jarvis suggested, her voice steady now and stronger. "It'd be a good turn that she'd appreciate, and his lordship would too." Emily did as she was told. She washed her hands in the jug of water on the side and then poured some of the frothing yeast into the bowl of flour. A few minutes later, Rosie came down. She put her finger to her lips and she pointed upstairs. "I've asked Judd to come," she mouthed. There was a rustle of a long skirt on the stairs, and the housekeeper came in, stern and brisk. Jim tried to slide under the table, but she stopped him with a booted foot. She came straight to Mrs. Jarvis and stood with her hands on her hips, looking down at her. "Rosie tells me you're in a bad way, Annie Jarvis," she said, "and I must say you look it." "I haven't come to make any trouble, Judd," Mrs. Jarvis said, "and I'm sorry if I've interrupted your work. I've only come to say goodbye to you and Rosie because you've always been so kind to me. If we've been kind to you, it's because you've always done your work well, and that's what matters." Judd sniffed. She looked over Emily's shoulder as the girl dolloped her dough onto the table and pushed her hands in to knead it. Rosie dodged behind her, her hands clasped together, her face anxious. It was as if Emily was performing some kind of magic, and they were afraid to break the spell, the way the three women were watching in silence. "Can cook, can you?" Judd asked Emily at last. "She can cook as well as me," said Jim's mother. "And she can scrub the floor for you, she can run errands. She can sleep on the kitchen floor and take up no room. She wouldn't need paying," Rosie said. "She'd just be saving Judd." Emily flattened and rolled the dough with the heel of her hand, stretching it out and folding it over time and time again, listening with every nerve in her body to what the woman behind her was saying. "But I couldn't do anything for the other girl," Judd said. "Judd, I've a sister who's a cook at Sunbury. She might give her a chance," Rosie said. She stood on the tips of her toes like a little girl with her hands clasped behind her back and her eyes pleading. "If you just let Lizzie sleep down here with Emily till Sunday, and I can walk her over to Mole's then." "I don't want to know they're here, Rosie. If his lordship finds out, it's every one of us for the workhouse. You know that, don't you? I don't know these girls. I don't know they're here, these girls." Judd swept out her straight back and her firm stride, telling them that she had never seen these girls in the kitchen. They listened to the swing of the door and for the clicking of the boots on the stairs to die away. "It's the best I can do to help you, Annie," Rosie said. "I can do no more." "It's more than I expected," Mrs. Jarvis said. "At least you've saved my girls from that place." She stood up unsteadily. "We'd better go," she said to Jim. "It's not fair to Rosie if we stay here any longer." "I'll leave you alone to say goodbye then," said Rosie. She touched her friend quickly on the shoulder and then went into the scullery, her face set in her hard lines. They could hear her in there banging pots around as if she was setting up for an orchestra. Emily said nothing at all, and that was because she couldn't. Her throat was as tight as a band of pain. She couldn't even look at her mother or at Jim, but hugged them quickly and then went to sit down at the table, her head in her hands. Lizzie tried to follow her example, but as soon as Mrs. Jarvis had put her hand on the door that led up to the street, she burst out, "Take us with you, Ma! Don't leave us here!" I can't," her mother said. She didn't turn around. "Bless you, I can't. This is the best for you. God bless you. Bless you both." She took Jim's hand and bundled him quickly out of the door. Jim daren't look at her. He daren't listen to the sounds that she was making now they were into the day. He held his face up to the sky and let the snowflakes flutter against his cheeks to cool him. He had no idea what was going to happen to him or to his mother, or whether he would ever see Emily and Lizzie again. He was more frightened than he'd ever been in his life.